Here are 5 science fiction books that broke my brain. Science fiction books that after you read them, your brain, you can almost feel your brain thinking about it, and you have this uneasy, disquiet, unsettled feeling, and you kind of like it. And you can't stop thinking about it, and you kind of marvel that I cannot believe some author came up with these ideas and these characters. These are 5 science fiction books that broke my brain. The first one is unsurprising. It's Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? Or Blade Runner, the movie that Blade Runner is based on. Over the last year or two, I've had a big Philip K. Dick streak. I've read not only Blade Runner, but I've read Flow My Tears, Said the Policeman, and Ubik, and Scanner Darkly, and a few others. And the thing about Philip K. Dick is all of his books, in some way, develop some sort of para-reality. They kind of shatter your reality. They shatter the reality of the characters. And the characters try to explore that para-reality, and they're disoriented and you are disoriented as the reader. But he somehow makes it work. He keeps you incredibly engaged in what the characters are doing. He explores these intimate corners of all of the characters' lives. Even characters that are ancillary, he'll explore what they're doing and everything about them. He has a remarkable way of talking about it. And Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? The atmosphere is absolutely haunting. And what the character, the detective and the replicants, their humanity that is explored there, you really cannot stop thinking about it. He's not great with resolutions, but he makes me not care that his resolutions aren't great. And that actually, it's kind of emblematic of his writing, is that his resolutions are nebulous as well. The original Blade Runner movie is amazing. Blade Runner 2049, totally, I know it's wide known, but that is still a very underrated movie. But this, Philip K. Dick continues to break my brain as I explore his back catalog as well. The next book is Children of Memory by Adrian Tchaikovsky. This is his Children of Time series. Adrian Tchaikovsky, he's a big modern writer. He's becoming one of my favorite sci-fi writers. The things that he explores, he's not afraid to take risks. He just writes the things that come to his mind. I think I'm going to do a Adrian Tchaikovsky starter kit kind of video soon to introduce readers to him if you haven't read him. But his book, Children of Memory, is the third in that series. The first is The Children of Time, and then The Children of Ruin, and then Children of Memory. They're all very different books, very different. It's almost like he had a bunch of ideas and he kind of strung them together in this series. Children of Time has become kind of a modern classic. That's a great place to start with Adrian Tchaikovsky. Children of Ruin I didn't love as much because it was so dry and the characters were so dry. And it was kind of a rehash of a lot of stuff in the first book. So I was reluctant to pick up Children of Memory. Children of Memory absolutely blew my mind. At the end of that book, it made me think about how my brain was thinking about the book. It mixes fantasy elements, it mixes space colonization elements, and then kind of like Philip K. Dick, the reality kind of just peels away towards the end of the book. And you're kind of like, is this Deus Ex Machina? What is going on in this book? But it's not. And there's this incredible reveal at the end of the book that changes the entire book. And I love books and movies where the ending scene or the ending chapters change the context of the entire book. Children of Memory will do that. That is a book that I cannot stop thinking about. The next book, the third book, is Mind of My Mind by Octavia Butler. This is from her Pattern Master series. I believe it's the second. The first one starts with Wild Seed. This series, in this book, they're not necessarily enjoyable. It's not like sci-fi or fantasy escapism. It's more like the book is about the brutality of violence and the brutality of power structures, and also between men and women. And what the main character does in this book, it's about a team of telepaths that are becoming almost sort of demigods in around the 1970s. And this series spans several hundred years. It's very interesting in that regard. Mind of My Mind, the reason it kind of broke my brain is what Octavia Butler does with the main character and the power struggle with her and her kind of telepathic master that's been in charge of a cabal of these like baby gods trying to create gods and trying to steer all of humanity. And the power struggle and the cruelty and violence and brutality that comes out of that it was hard to read, but I'm glad I read it. And I finished all of the Pattern Master series. I think it's 4 books. They're all quite different. If you haven't read Octavia Butler, I wouldn't know. I don't think Pattern Master is the best place to start. That might be more Kindred or The Parable of the Sower. But Mind of My Mind is a book that I think about a lot, and I think it broke my brain. The next book is This Is How You Lose the Time War. This book, I want to back it up. There are some science fiction books that they're a little over intellectual. They're a little too opaque. Their prose is too purple. It's too flowery, and they're not that accessible. And I don't enjoy them. Some of the books that fall in this category are like Too Like the Lightning by Ada Palmer. I didn't necessarily enjoy that book. It was a little too, just a little too intellectual to get into. And I like intellectual books, but it was just there was something I just didn't get into it. Another book like that is Nine Fox Gambit. I thought This Is How You Lose the Time War was going to be like that, so I was hesitant to read it for years. I finally picked it up. I was like, this is a short book. I'll check it out. And I started reading it, and my fears were confirmed as I started reading it. I was like, I'm not into this. The prose is too flowery. It's too poetic. This is too opaque. This isn't tangible enough for me. I'm just not enjoying it. But I kept going. I kept going. I kept going. And I finished it. And it broke my brain. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful book. Towards the end of the book, you start realizing that it's kind of a romance. And it's a tragic romance. And the whole book is kind of a long poem. And if you go into it with that mentality, and if you understand that, I think you might really, really enjoy it. I've never read a book like it, and they do incredibly interesting things with time travel and power dynamics, and it's ultimately a poetic romance, and it's really quite powerful and beautiful, and I highly recommend it. The last book I want to talk about is Disquiet Gods by Ruocchio. The Sun Eater series. It's made a big splash. This is the 6th book in the series. The 7th book just came out, Shadows of Time, which I'm actually reading right now. I'm going to do a video later about is Sun Eater worth it to read. Disquiet Gods broke my mind. I can't get too much into it because it's the 6th book in the series and it's a little spoiler, but the whole Sun Eater series, is it derivative? People talk about, yes, it's a space opera for one thing. It has some derivations of Dune, right, and Roman culture and things like that. That doesn't matter. Everything is derivative now. Originality is kind of overrated. It doesn't really matter if you have original ideas. It matters if you tell a good story. Does Christopher Ruocchio tell a good story? Absolutely. I'm enthralled by the series. Disquiet Gods, the reason it broke my brain is so many things come together, so many opaque, clandestine things that are happening throughout this incredibly expansive series through this single POV of Hadrian Marlowe. Things kind of break down and reality peels away again in this book, and a lot of stuff is revealed, and you understand his place in the cosmos and his place in the history of the Imperium, and it stuck in my brain, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. And I'm in Shadows of Time right now, and I'll return talking about that series. But Disquiet Gods definitely has stuck with me and broke me down. I got to add a bonus book, and honestly, this should have been the main list. The bonus book, that sci-fi book that broke my mind, is The Fall of Hyperion by Dan Simmons. And honestly, The Fall of Hyperion and Hyperion, they're basically two books that are one story. There is absolutely nothing like Dan Simmons' Hyperion, Cantos, the Hyperion and Fall of Hyperion. They'll break your brain in a way that no other sci-fi book will. Again, it's a space opera. There's some cyberpunk elements in it. It's a horror. The first book follows the structure of Canterbury Tales. The second book, what Dan Simmons does with time and like inverse time and creating gods from it, it's amazing. There is nothing like Hyperion. I'm sure you've heard about Hyperion. Maybe you've read it. Maybe you've been thinking about reading it. If you are exploring what sci-fi is capable of doing, you must read Hyperion and The Fall of Hyperion. I'll just leave it at that. I read the other books in the Hyperion series. What is it, Ed DeMayon and the other ones? They're not as good. They're not. They're different. They're not bad books at all, but they're not as good. The first two books, Hyperion and The Fall of Hyperion, there's nothing like them. All right, I'll wrap it up. Thanks for joining me at Wick Wilco Reads. You can check out my website. I'm an author. You can take a look if you want to look at my stuff. No pressure. I'm also a medical doctor. I do a podcast. I talk about medical topics, but I talk about books a lot on my podcast too. I talk about nonfiction books a lot. Lots of politics, economics, immigration, history, and I also talk about fantasy and sci-fi on my podcasts as well. That's linked. You can take a look at that. Thanks for joining me. Subscribe. I will see you next time. Thank you.